The year was 1573, the complex legacy of Frantz Schmidt, executioner of Nuremberg in the year 1573. In the thriving city of Nuremberg, a jewel in the crown of the Holy Roman Empire, 18-year-old man named Frantz Schmidt was on the brink of embarking on a chilling career. This profession, once steeped in stigma and dread, had burdened his family for generations, almost like a hereditary curse. Frantz Schmidt did not willingly choose to become an executioner. Rather, he was compelled by the inexorable weight of familial destiny and the unforgiving demands of a society that required someone to carry out the necessary yet detested work of dispensing capital punishment. From 1573 to 1618, during a career spanning 45 years, Frantz Schmidt would execute 361 individuals and inflict torture, whipping, or mutilation upon another 544 victims. His meticulously kept diaries, composed in archaic German, chronicle every execution, detailing the method employed, the type of crime committed, and the social status of the condemned. To dismiss Schmidt as merely an executioner would be to overlook the complexity of the man and the profound implications of his role. He transformed the grim act of execution into what he considered a precise science. Education marked Schmidt's life in ways that ran counter to the traits typically associated with his profession. He was a learned individual and an amateur surgeon, well regarded as a healer in the community. His diaries and records not only offered detailed insights into the mechanics of his brutal trade, but also serve as a unique lens through which to view the broader context of medieval justice's system nested in institutionalized violence. Reliant on figures like Schmidt to uphold its order, this narrative unfolds as a story of how Frantz Schmidt sought to elevate a despised profession into one of respectability. Through his methods, he influenced generations of executioners, ultimately contributing to a deeper understanding of criminal justice during the 16th and 17th centuries in Europe. Born in 1555, Frantz Schmidt was the son of Heinrich Schmidt, the executioner of Hof in Bavaria. The role of executioner was not one chosen by free will, but was instead imposed by the social fabric of the time. Historical accounts reveal that few would willingly embrace such an occupation, forced upon them through familial obligation and societal condemnation. Heinrich had himself been thrust into the role after his own father was executed for theft. A common occurrence where families deemed criminal became obligated to adopt roles associated with dishonor. Growing up, Frantz faced the societal stigma attached to the Schmidt name. Executioners and their families lived apart from respectable society, ostracized from communal gatherings, barred from marrying outside the trade, and denied the right to bury their dead in consecrated ground. They existed in a paradoxical state, viewed as essential to the functioning of justice, yet regarded as contaminated by the bloodshed they caused. Nevertheless, Heinrich Schmidt ensured that his son received a remarkable education for someone of their standing, teaching him to read and write in both German and Latin, along with imparting knowledge of basic anatomy essential for his future profession. This pragmatic education sought to hone Frantz's skills, preparing him to be the most proficient executioner he could be. Upon turning 18 in 1573, Frantz was brought to Nuremberg by his father to assume the mantle of municipal executioner. This city, known for its commercial might and strict legal codes, posed particular challenges for Schmidt. It was not merely common criminals he would face, but also politically and religiously charged cases emerging from the tumult of the Protestant Reformation. Frantz's inaugural execution occurred on May 29, 1573, when he executed a thief convicted of multiple thefts. In his diary, he meticulously documented the crime, the method dictated by the tribunal, and his technical assessment of the execution, a reflection of his obsessive dedication. 2. Thoroughness that would characterize his entire career. Nuremberg's judicial system was a complex reflection of its society, posing different penalties based on social status. Nobility rarely faced execution, often opting for exile or financial penalties, while burgesses could buy their way out of harsh sentences. In stark contrast, peasants, impoverished artisans, and social outcasts confronted the full force of Schmidt's justice, having little recourse to avoid their grim fates. Execution methods varied by the crime and the social standing of the condemned. nobility faced decapitation, while common criminals were typically hanged. For the gravest offenses, such as treason or heresy, Schmidt employed more elaborate methods: torture wheels, stakes, and quartering. His approach sought to minimize unnecessary suffering, not from compassion, but from a desire for professional competence. Believing that incompetent executions reflected poorly on his skills, as Schmidt honed his craft, striving for precision, he developed a reputation for never having failed in an execution feat that was rare among his contemporaries. His technical prowess slowly garnered him a degree of respect, even from those who held him in disdain for his societal role. Throughout the 1580s, Schmidt grappled with profound challenges amid the swirling tides of religious conflict. As Nuremberg, an officially Lutheran city, condemned Catholics for charges of sedition, he found himself executing both Protestant extremists and Catholic dissenters, maintaining a professional neutrality that defined his tenure. One case that left an indelible mark on Schmidt's conscience was that of Georg Stieber, executed in 1584 for murder. Schmidt harbored doubts regarding the fairness of the sentence, believing it stemmed from a self-defense situation, an acknowledgement of the moral complexities inherent in his role. He executed Stieber as commanded but recorded his misgivings within the pages of his diary, revealing that he experienced a profound inner conflict over the moral ramifications of his profession. His writings frequently delve into reflections on the adequacy of sentences, the behavior of the condemned at death's door, and the personal struggles he faced in reconciling his work with his moral beliefs. In addition to his role as executioner, Schmidt held the title of the city's official torturer, charged with extracting confessions from suspects through pawn-induced methods. Torture was seen as a necessary evil to elicit truthful admissions. Based on the belief that only the guilty would divulge under duress, Schmidt devised techniques that inflicted intense agony, but avoided causing permanent harm. His methods included stretching racks, thumbscrews, and various devices designed to inflict suffering without death. Meticulously logging each procedure, he evaluated the resistance of subjects, documenting the techniques that proved successful in compelling confessions. His evolving protocols reflected a keen understanding of how to optimize effectiveness while minimizing medical risks. During the 1590s, Schmidt's reputation began to extend beyond the grisly confines of his vocation. His extensive anatomical knowledge, acquired through years of execution and torture, transformed him into a competent surgeon. An intriguing contradiction developed in his life. As people from varying social classes began to seek his medical expertise in secret, the man responsible for taking lives also became known for saving them, treating wounds, performing minor surgeries, and assisting in difficult births. His patients included many who publicly shunned him, but recognized his distinctive medical capabilities behind closed doors. In 1602, Schmidt encountered a particularly controversial case, the execution of Margareta Dürler, whom he was compelled to condemn for witchcraft, amid the waves of witch hunts sweeping through Nuremberg. He was increasingly uncomfortable with the evidence presented, which he found dubious at best. Forced to apply torture in an effort to extract confessions from Dürler, he noted in his diaries his reservations regarding the validity of such admissions. He observed that extreme torture often elicited false confessions from the afflicted, something that progressively gnawed at his conscience in early recognition of the failure of witch trials that foreshadowed later critiques. The execution of Dürler proved unsettling for Schmidt, as she maintained her innocence to her last breath, a phenomenon he had rarely encountered. Most condemned individuals confessed their purported crimes before execution, seeking divine forgiveness, but Dürler's steadfast protest left him burdened with doubts about the legitimacy of her punishment. Over the course of his 45-year career, Schmidt executed individuals from all walks of life. His records detail the harrowing executions of adolescents as young as 14 for theft, pregnant women whose deaths were deferred until after childbirth, and elderly individuals condemned for heresy, age and mental state rarely mitigating factors in medieval justice. He devised protocols tailored for various categories of condemned individuals, ensuring that pregnant women delivered their babies to orphanages before execution, and adapting methods for mentally disturbed offenders. Schmidt's diaries also capture the shifting public attitudes toward executions over time. In the early years of his career, executions were often celebratory events, drawing large crowds eager to witness what they perceived as justice being served. However, As Enlightenment principles began to take root, public sentiment increasingly viewed these events with moral unease. Schmidt noted the contrasting responses among different social classes. Peasants and artisans viewed executions as both entertainment and affirmation of social order, while educated merchants and clergy began to distance themselves from these grim spectacles, signaling a societal evolution in moral sensibilities. In 1612, Schmidt faced an unprecedented personal challenge that would strain his professional ethics. His own brother-in-law was accused of counterfeiting currency, a crime punishable by death, forcing Frantz to torture and ultimately execute a family member. This harrowing event revealed the painful intersection of duty and familial loyalty, bringing intense personal anguish to Schmidt's life. He executed his brother-in-law with the same surgical precision he applied to strangers, yet his diaries candidly reflected his emotional turmoil more than in any other case. This personal tragedy marked a turning point for Schmidt. He resolved to liberate his family from the hereditary burden of executioner. Determined, he began to save money and cultivate political alliances that might lead to the freedom of his lineage's process, fraught with complexity that would take years to realize. As he approached retirement, Schmidt began to train assistants to gradually inherit his responsibilities, creating detailed manuals on execution and torture techniques that would serve future generations of executioners. As Schmidt's career waned, he bore witness to shifting legal paradigms regarding punishment. Influenced by Enlightenment thinkers, jurists began to question the efficacy of judicial torture and called for reforms to the penal system. Schmidt's extensive documentation indirectly contributed to this discourse, revealing the limitations inherent in traditional methods of justice. In 1618, after decades of grueling service, Frantz Schmidt succeeded in purchasing his retirement and securing his family's freedom from the hereditary executioner profession. He succeeded in paying a substantial sum to the authorities in Nuremberg, assuring his children the liberty to choose honorable professions for themselves. This remarkable feat was an exceptional accomplishment, few executioners having achieved such a level of personal redemption throughout history. In the twilight years of his life, Schmidt transitioned into the role of a respected healer, openly applying the medical knowledge he had discreetly cultivated during his years as an executioner. He began to treat patients from all social strata, gradually surmounting the stigma that had accompanied his previous vocation. His reputation as a physician began to overshadow his notoriety as an executioner. He died in 1634 at the age of 79, surrounded by family and held in esteem by the community he once served in shadows. The Diaries of Frantz Schmidt, preserved by his descendants, later came to light as invaluable documents for historians. Seeking insight into the barbaric yet fascinating world of medieval judicial practices, Schmidt had not merely endured a cursed profession, he had crafted a legacy that bridged the chasm between cruelty and compassion. His diaries not only document the brutal methods of the time, but also provide profound reflections on the ethical complexities faced by someone trapped in a system that mandated institutionalized violence. More than for centuries after his death, Schmidt remains a complex and compelling figure in medieval history, illustrating the paradox of individuals who are both products and architects of a brutal social order. His life and writings remind us that even the darkest professions can yield rich narratives, illuminating the human experience within the harshest confines of justice. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to support our work and never miss an upload. Like this video, drop a comment, and share it with others to show your support and help us grow this historical community.